Welcome to the Landco podcast. This is the year-round waterfowl hunter series, where we dissect the monthly activities of a successful waterfowl hunter. I'm your host and managing partner at Landco, John O'Reilly. Hey guys, welcome back to the Landco podcast, the year-round waterfowl hunter, here with Jody Graff. And so usually we chat for a few minutes before we start, but we always talk about stuff that I'm like, you know what, let's stop. Let's talk about that once we get going. So we have literally no plans for this episode other than to tell you kind of what we've been doing the last month. It is, we're into May now, which has happened the last few months, but we're talking about April. So I know on my end it was busy. I'm anticipating it was the same on Jody's end. So give me the brief rundown, and then we'll get into detail because I have some pictures from you, so we can talk about that stuff. But give me kind of a brief rundown of April.
So this is the beginning of the race. I mean, we're in the thick of it here now. We're planting, we're drawing down wetlands, we're fighting beavers, and this is where the rubber meets the road. And you don't always have to be the best property around. You got to be better than your neighbor. And so this is where we're getting in the trenches and really, I mean, we had 84 hours last week in 6 days, and it's just, we got guys running around all over the place working on different projects at different times, and it's a race to ducks.
It is a race, and when you say you need to be better than your neighbors, at this point in the year, that's getting in food, right? That's what you're talking about, which can be a challenge. How's it been for you guys? It's actually been fairly decent over here.
It's been all right. We've had rain, and not a lot of rain, but enough to slow you down a couple days a week, 3-4 days a week. You can't work. But, what we're trying to do right now is drain quicker. We're running ditches. Last week after the rain, I spent half a day running the Ranger tires down the ditches in the fields to try to get the water off a little bit quicker because I knew we were going to plant, right after it dried up. And so, we were the first ones in that bottom. And so we're just, it's highly competitive right now, and trying to get a leg up on, the other guys around is the key right now.
It's exhausting what it is. But can we take a break and talk about my hatred of beavers since you brought it up? Because, okay, so let me explain what Jody means and what I mean when we're talking about our hatred of beavers. So, we need dry fields to plant. Not an inch of water, not wet soils. It has to be dry. So at least on my end, we need to be dry for, what would you say, when you drain a wetland, how long do you need to have water completely off it to plant? A week? 10 days?
A week or 10 days. If we got some heat and some good drying days, sometimes less.
So here's where beavers on my end, and I'm sure everyone's end, can be infuriating, is because you have it and it's dry and you get a little rain and you go there the next day and you have an inch of water out there. And an inch of water sets you back another 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
So this month went well for beavers. So we actually got, I don't know if you've done this, we got a nuisance permit. And this is just on my personal farm. Most of our other clients' farms we have a better handle on them. Unfortunately, my farm, I take care of my clients first and then we go back to our farm. So, but we got a nuisance permit. This is only 120 acres, mind you. Let me pull up some of these pictures. Again, you can't see these, but here's my son. We got 3 on one area set. We ended up getting 12 beavers in 2 weeks.
Whoa.
12 beavers in 2 weeks. One was 65 pounds. Gosh, now I have to get Buzz back. I'm going to switch as. But so we set them for 12 days. I thought they were gone. And he got out of there, and literally within 2 or 3 days of those traps being gone, we have new beavers.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
He caught, this dude caught five in one location. Like I always thought they were so like territorial. He caught five in one location in 2 weeks, and there's one back there now.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
just
it's like, man, it's just like everything else with our deer and turkeys and ducks. They're going to go to the best opportunity to thrive. And a lot of these wetlands, we've made it really easy for them to back water up.
yeah, because they're little channels. A lot of these are
Yeah.
channels. They plug up like an 8 foot channel, and
Yeah.
the problem is you tear it down, and the next day it's like a foot taller. And you tear it down, and the next day it's 2 foot taller. It's
Yeah.
infuriating. But I was just excited about my 12 beaver, so I had to plug that real quick.
Yeah, man, that's a great run.
Yeah. But it's actually worse. Well, you guys, a lot of our stuff is sloped. So, like, raising it a couple, 3 or 4 inches only affects, maybe 20, 30 foot of planting area. Not all of our stuff, but your stuff is flat over there, right? Like your river bottom, like an inch or two of water on your stuff could cover half of the field.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were in a spot last week where we're trying to get the water off so we can start a big levee repair project. And man, they had their dam up. I don't know, it was holding back a foot of water, but it held back a foot of water on 100 acres.
Uh,
And so it makes it hard to get that stuff dried out so we can get in there and start borrowing dirt to put in the levee. And we spent 3 days down there digging it out, and we had somebody there every night. And at 8:15 or 8:30, we were shooting one a night, and we can't keep up with them.
yeah.
So I mean, we're working offsite in a different location. I got one of the boys running over there every morning and cleaning the beaver dams back out, and then somebody's sitting there in the evenings. And I mean, it's daunting.
It's never ending.
Yeah.
It's never ending.
Yeah.
But for where we're at, once we get past the rains, they
Yeah.
still do it, but it's not as big a deal because you're dry and it's not backing water up fast. So it's the worst. I'm not like excusing it, but within a month, it won't be quite as big as of a worry.
Yeah.
No, awful. But we're ahead of them. It sounds like you're ahead of them. So what have you got in? What have you planted?
We've got a lot of corn in. I've got a few deer farms that we're putting in corn on the hills. We planted some corn in the bottom last week, and we got a bunch of sunflowers in. So, and it's obviously for dove hunting. But a lot of these clubs, man, they're looking for something to do in September. Everybody's a little itchy, and so by throwing out some sunflower plots and having teal water ready, we can kind of get those guys in there in September, knocking the rust off.
Oh, for sure. It's a good practice. Dove hunting. I like waterfowl way better, but if I could only pick one day, a lot of times it's dove opener. It's a blast, man.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Have you guys ever run into? I want to ask this the right way so you don't answer it if you don't want to. I'll say what's happened to us, and you can tell us your take. The club that I bought like 4 or 5 years ago, and the farm that I have, since we're kind of in the public eye, we were approached and told by the DNR that we could not early goose season hunt or early teal hunt because we had mowed sunflowers on our property to dove hunt.
Uh-huh.
I was like, dude, I haven't seen a duck or a goose eat a sunflower seed my whole life. And he was like, me neither. It's just the rule.
Right. So it's manipulated.
Yep.
And I get it. And I've talked to, usually my first call, if I have something questionable, I'm going to call a conservation agent and get his perspective on it. And there may be some flexibility in there, but we've got a farm that 300 yards away from the wetland, we've got a hilltop that we mow sunflowers on. And and then we'll broadcast wheat and stuff
Right.
after that, as a rotation. And we can't waterfowl hunt up there.
Yeah.
And but he has given me the confidence that he's not going to write me a ticket for duck hunting or goose hunting down on the wetland 300 yards away. But it was very, I don't want to say strict, but he was very black and white. That we could do it down there, but we couldn't hunt that field because we had manipulated the crop. And
and we both know, like, we have to operate on different rules than most people. We just do. We're in the public. But I was like, I know hundreds of landowners that have sunflower fields and hunt early season. He's like, yeah, we don't actually enforce it. It's like, well, okay. But he even went as far as to say, even if your neighbor has a sunflower field that's cut, technically you can't early season on your property. It's like, man, that's nuts.
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard to uphold.
It is, and he even said, he's like, we don't write those tickets because they don't stick, but we abide by it. So what we do is by the middle of September, even though it's still dove season, we'll go ahead and rip those fields. Yeah. So, but it's kind of a pain for our members at the hunt club because they would like to, teal hunt or dove hunt until the end of the month. But whatever, I was just kind of curious about that. Okay, well, you sent me some pictures. And some of this is going to be the farming. Gosh, these are always like astounding to me because they're so big. These fields. So the first one, it looks like you got a pit in. We haven't done anything with pits. I'll put it on here. You can't see it. It's the looks like a huge field that was either worked or planted with a sunken pit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is a farm where we have a 60-acre wetland. We've got a 15-acre pool where we can plant and flood corn. That's pretty well flood protected. But then we've also got 10 acres of big mature pin oak timber and some shrub scrub, button bush and more emergent wetland marsh kind of habitat, all on the same farm. And so we're hitting several different habitat types on the same farm, and so that field, we've got a 25-foot concealed comfort in it. It's a big roomy pit, but I backfilled it again. It seems like every year things settle just a little bit.
Yeah,
and it seems like if you can get dirt up over most of that pit, you can hide it better. You can conceal it better. Stuff grows on top of it, and it just looks way more natural if you're able to keep that pit under the ground or keep dirt on top of it.
I actually didn't even see it the first time I pulled up that picture, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
So how far will the water come up on that pit, on that little knob? Will it come up to within a foot of the top of that or so?
4 inches from the top.
4 inches.
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with anything. I'm just curious. I've never hunted out of those concealed comforts. I'm a Bradley Blinds guy. We've established that. But both of them, I guess I can go back to our, hold on. But both of them have that shoot out of the top feature. The concealed comfort, the shooting holes are on one end, right?
Uh-huh.
But they're still pointing up. The Bradley Blinds are in the middle, but they're still pointing up.
Uh-huh.
Do you like hunting out of those for ducks?
Man, I prefer a stand-up blind, a wooden blind on the edge of the woods, or a tree line or something you can back up to. Just because I'm 6'3" and it's tough to get comfortable for an all-day sit in a pit blind, and there are obviously places where you have to have them. I mean, you can't stick a stand-up blind in the middle of a cornfield. I mean, you're just never going to hide it. And so, identifying the hunting strategy will kind of lead you in the direction. But I spent a lot of days in a pit and go back to them because they're good, and go back to them because we kill ducks, and And I don't want to sound like I'm anti-pit, but it is more comfortable for me to stand up. I
Yeah.
got a bad back. And
Well, I say that because, like, so I'm actually 100% with you for maybe different reasons. Um, I agree there's areas for those pits that, like, it's your best option. And you just deal with it because you're going to be concealed and you're going to shoot more birds. But it's weird. Like, so I take a lot of people hunting that are like clients or don't hunt a lot. And I feel like in those pits, the only person that can actually see what's going on is the guy that's calling.
mm-hmm.
And everyone else is just like literally on a knee waiting. And they have no idea where the birds are. You know, it's hard to see them unless you poke your head out the top. And so, like, if you get that blind, you literally, like my son, for example, he can sit on a chair in the back of the blind and just kind of look at what's going on. Like he can see the birds work. So I was just kind of curious because I've talked to Chris, the dude that makes the Bradley blinds, and we're talking about a hybrid that is instead of all the way sunk, like half sunk, like 3 feet, with the shooting holes like angled.
Mm-hmm.
So like where you're at, maybe if you go back and look at your picture, I hope I get Chris to make these. Like if you only backfilled it a little more on one side, and the holes would be facing forward a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
It'd make it more challenging to hunt, shoot behind you. But I think I might have him make one of those for me this year and see how it goes.
Well, you know, some of those places, that's all you need is a few feet in the ground. And
Yeah.
if you can get, you know, if you can get the angle to where you're coming out of the front of the blind and not the top of the blind, it makes for easier shooting too.
For sure.
You get the sun at your back, whether, you know, a lot of guys are like, well, I want the wind at my back. Well, the sun being at your back can, you know, provide a lot of, for a lot of reasons, keeping the sun out of your eyes. As guys get older, it's harder for them to, you know, determine whether it's a drake or a hen. But it also helps conceal you because you're in the shadow, and
Yeah.
the sun is, you know, the ducks are staring straight into the sun. So, I mean, there's opportunity to do a hybrid like that.
Yeah.
Just
And
try to
especially if
keep the
it's
sun at your back a little bit.
like a corn plot, because you could have stubble around you that's 3 or 4 feet tall. You know, if you can plant right up to the blind. So even if you're a couple feet over the water, you can still conceal that. I don't know. We're going to try it, but I assume that we'll be able to conceal that fairly well.
Uh-huh.
But and this has nothing to do with anything. But a lot of the guys, not a lot, but some of the guys that have really successful clubs here, they literally have, including my neighbor. Well, the neighbor of both of my properties, they have blinds like you're talking about, like timber edge blinds on stilts above the water line. They stick out like a sore thumb. And they just line them with corn, and they look to me they look awful. I mean, awful, but they kill birds out of it. I don't know. So maybe I'm overthinking it.
Well,
Okay.
any given day, they can surprise you. They're
Yes.
tremendously humbling birds to hunt.
You know what else I've learned? See, we're off topic, but some of these are valuable. Like I always, in general, I try to set up with the wind in my back so they land, feet up right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
My farm, both of my farms, we've cleared a bunch of trees, and it is always windy, like always. So, like if my phone says it's 15-mile-per-hour wind, it could be 20 with gust of 30. And when you have those strong winds, it's tough shooting, man.
Mm-hmm.
You miss your first shot and the second shot, they're like 50 yards already.
Yeah.
So this was the first year I did a little experimenting with the winds. A guy that hunts with me, Brody, explained that. And I'm like, you know what? You're right, dude. Like it's 50-mile-per-hour winds we shoot. The next shot is, a prayer. And so we try to get, when it's super windy, we almost try to get crosswind a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you got to double and triple your leads depending on, if that wind is crossing or there have been a lot of days where I'll shoot 2 or 3 times and I'm thinking in my head, how did I miss that duck? and there was a hunt. I was with one of my clients at his property, and we were hunting, and we literally had 3 single mallard drakes come in, and there was a 20 or 25 mile an hour south wind that day, and they came in and we whiffed. Like we both shot at them. It was terrible. And then one of us finally clipped the wing of a gadwall that came in, and it was on the water. We were going to shoot it on the water, and the pattern literally hit 3 feet to the right.
Oof.
The wind was blowing it that far.
Yeah.
And so then we doubled our leads, when we were shooting, and
Yeah.
started hitting them.
Man, that's rough.
Yeah, those high wind days can be tough and challenging, from a shooting perspective.
But a lot of those are the fun, like action-packed days.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's check out an off subject. I like that stuff. Here is another, just giant field. God, I want to plant some of these or flood some of these. This one is actually looks like it's kind of sloped uphill. Got some trees at the very end. It looks like you just planted it, actually.
It could be a sunflower field.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right.
Shotgun shells in there on the ground.
I don't know. I don't see it. We'll move on if it's a sunflower field. We did get our sunflower field as well. Got a little footage on a tractor going there. While we're off waterfowl, I'm going to put your turkey picture up. Let's hear that story.
Yeah, so I went out. I took my oldest daughter, Georgia, that's in that picture, on opening day to a farm that I've been hunting on for 5 or 6 years. And anyway, we got in there, and there's been 8 or 9 gobblers on this 200 acres. We got in there and didn't hear a single gobble that morning. And so anyway, I stayed off the farm for a few days, went back in and called in 5 one morning. And of course she wasn't with me, and, ran in there and shot one at 625 or something. And, it was a perfect hunt. The ones that you wanted to have a kid on.
Yes.
But anyway, the girls get pretty wound up whenever I come home with turkey, and all they want to talk about is eating turkey nuggets after that. They get pretty excited about it.
That's the fun stuff, man. My son's just starting to get excited about. He likes upland and waterfowl at the moment, but
yeah. How old is he?
He's 7.
Yeah.
So he's been going for I think I took him when he was 4, but I wouldn't let him go with anyone. It was just me and him, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really shoot much. I just kind of took him out there. 5, he got a little more into it. 6, so last year he was asking to go. He was asking to invite people. It was cool. Okay, let's go through. What's this picture? It looks like you did some modifications upon like a creek bank.
Oh, I'm trying to think of what all I sent you.
So this one, yeah, really looks like you shaped a creek. Pull it up here. Shaped a creek. Got some dozer tracks and flat a trail alongside of it.
So that's one of the Green Tree Reservoir projects we're working on. And
okay.
So we're hipping up a levee. We're borrowing dirt and putting it up so that as it rains, we can still haul dirt in. That's only going to give us about 70% of our levee. We're going to have to haul in dirt with a tractor and scraper.
Yeah.
But we're getting 70% of it from the track hoe, and getting dirt kind of hipped up so it'll help dry out. That's a really wet spot back in the timber, and it's not going to dry very good. But we're killing 2 birds with one stone. We're getting a levee, the start of a levee, and we're also providing some drainage. And so getting water off that timber is going to help it. But we've got 3 miles of levee to build in that timber. So we got an early start on it, and we're rocking and rolling in there.
So you're just going to flood that timber, or do you have any food plot holes back in there?
No, man, it's all pin oak and pecan timber.
That is just so remote to me. I can't wait. I don't care if I'm invited or not. I'm coming down to hunt. You guys are killing birds in that timber. Show up.
Oh, it's going to be pretty, man.
So where do you even hunt? Do you hunt along those open banks, or do you have holes in the timber?
We'll have holes cut out in the timber. and in those holes, we'll go in and borrow some dirt out of those areas and try to get ice heater depth water. And there's also going to be some spots where we're not going to really put in a hole. We're just going to thin the timber.
Yeah.
Basically do TSI work and do some crop tree release and just leave the pin oaks and pecans and be able to, it'll be thin enough. The canopy will be thin enough that, you have pretty good visibility with birds.
We have one of my wetlands has like 7 trees in it, and we call it the timber hole. All right, what else do we have here? You did some burning, it looks like.
Yeah, just last week. Part of that we're trying to increase the warm season grass stand or improve it. Some of that's for turkey hunting.
Yeah, and deer hunting. I mean, that stuff is rejuvenates quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I try not to get involved into too much of the burning. I've got a bad history of burning.
You either like it or you don't.
Yeah, I don't. Here's a clip I just found that I had uploaded, and this is what you were saying on the. So we've had the same. We've had like it's been mostly good weather through April, but we'll get like one rain, and it'll be enough to keep like big equipment off for a couple days. So we were like I say, you scramble. So we were fertilizing. See if I can even pull it up. Fertilizing literally with just like our gator and a little broadcaster right on front.
Uh-huh.
Can't pull up the video. But that was literally, I ran out of light that night trying to fertilize. That wasn't even a big field, 12 acres or something altogether. Then you have to buy a bunch of bag fertilizer because you can't get a buggy on there. And I think I had, I don't know, what we went through, 24 bags or something on that one.
Wow.
But whatever, like you say, you got to get ahead of it because if you don't, somebody else will.
Yeah. Well, the wind's been blowing quite a bit.
It has. That
really helped things dry out.
That has helped.
We had a pretty good wind today. We got a 3/4 of an inch of rain or something yesterday, and I'd say by tomorrow afternoon we're going to be back in the field planting.
Okay. So, are you done with all your corn? We still have some to go there.
No, I've probably got 400 acres left.
Okay. See, you have bigger fields, but we're probably somewhere in the 80, I don't know, 80 to 100, but we have it all planted. But we caught one big rain, and it probably, I don't know, I bet 10% of that's underwater. So we'll probably have to go back and replant some of it. But we're done with corn, and we have everything else just on standby. Like we're probably waiting now until late May, early June to start planting sorghum, millet, buckwheat, that sort of stuff. So we're kind of like on a holding pattern, designing wetlands, working with clients. And oddly enough, like, I don't know if you've done that, a lot of property is moving these last 2 or 3 weeks. Is it happening down there?
Man, it's been pretty quiet.
Has it?
They pretty well had to shut down. I mean, they've opened things back up in the state this week, but a lot of our buyers coming to Sheridan County are coming from out of state.
Yeah.
And so it's been tough for people to get here with some of the restrictions on travel and stuff. But yeah. I've not seen an uptick yet.
Really?
No.
All right. I shouldn't have brought it up.
It's all right. I've been busy farming.
No, and that's Pudic. I always talk to him. I'm like, let's do this. He's like, and he plants thousands of acres, production stuff. He's like, call me in like 4 weeks.
Right.
No, in the last, we closed on a 120. We got a 196 under contract. We're about to, I think we're going to sell it maybe at 200. I mean, this is all in like the last 10 days, and we're still under lockdown. I mean, technically.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm essential or not, but I'm still showing properties.
Yeah, attaboy.
So what else once you get the corn in, what else do you have on hand to plant?
Man, so we'll go back and we'll plant milo after the corn. I'm gonna plant a bunch of millet this year.
When do you get in your milo? Are you talking like late May?
Yeah,
Yeah.
try to get through. And there's going to be some corn. We're going to be staggered a little bit because some of the properties we haven't even started taking water off of yet that we're going to plant some corn. So it's kind of that June 1st target planting date.
Oof.
And
You're pushing it pretty close.
going to a 95-day corn.
Yeah.
And these are properties like that's where the water level management plan comes in. Like farms that you can get water on quick, your flexibility in your planting dates are a lot more, a lot broader.
Yeah.
You get some properties that are hard to pump or hard to get water to, and your window is really small. But thankfully, we've got pretty good water source on a lot of these farms, and so it allows us to kind of get out of the flood season. A lot of times.
Yeah, so you're saying, hold on, let me clarify that, because you're saying getting water to it fast, but that's later in the year. Does that also mean you can get water off of it fast? Like if they're underwater now,
so,
that means you're pretty confident that you can get the water off and dry up in a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where we get to that 10-day window. We start getting heat at the end of May and early June, and we miss a couple of rains, and it starts slowing down the rain a little bit, and man, things can dry out in a hurry. And usually in June, that's whenever I'm no-tilling. Like we'll go in, we'll no-till and spray it and kill everything that was there. And so you take let's say a 10-acre pool, and you've got 3 acres of some nasty aquatic vegetation that you want to get rid of, or spikegrass or bulrush or Reed's canary grass or something like that. I'll literally drive around that wetland and plant corn every place I see something I don't like.
Yeah.
And go back in and burn it down, and the corn will shoot up through it, and you can get away with a lot, with these no-till planters.
For sure, we take advantage of them a lot.
Yeah, but that time of the year, you're a little more likely to dry out, and so no-tilling into stuff that has some weed cover, is going to help retain that moisture. And going into June, a lot of the times we'll no-till,
yes.
Which is different than what we're doing right now. We're working ground and going through the whole bit. But
the customer likes to see the ground worked and turned over. It looks pretty.
Yeah, it doesn't look quite as pretty when it's coming up through a bunch of bulrush.
It doesn't, but it comes up, like you said. It works. You know what we're going to try this year? I think we talked about it a little bit. I sent you that link. Did you look at the link on that rice from Hancock Seed?
Yeah.
So we've only tried rice a few times, but it was like the old school wild rice, and it was incredibly expensive. Like, incredibly. I think it was not even been like, and this was back in 2010 or something. It was like $1,000 an acre.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts. But it was supposed to come back every year, so we're like, whatever, let's give it a shot. And that was in Knox County, which is not a waterfall county. And we had piles of birds in this wetland. I'm talking piles. So we're giving it a shot this year because there's a cheaper seed we came across. So we got enough to do like 10 acres. And it's a real weird process. You can plant it up to 6 inches of water, because we have a lot of stuff that either we inherited and it wasn't maybe built correctly, or it can't shed all the water. And what?
My daughter's up out of bed.
Oh boy.
G, go to bed, honey.
Do we need to take a pause, or will she?
No, we're good.
Okay. But literally, you soak it for 24 hours and put it in a burlap bag, and it starts to germinate. Then you could just hand broadcast it up to 6 inches, and we're going to give it a shot. About 350 pounds of it. So sort of excited to see what that does, because I don't know if you're like me, but I try to maximize every inch. So if I can plant corn the first 400 yards, and then it dries the next 30 yards, then I go in and plant sorghum, and then it's millet. So I'm always looking to push that a little bit. So I'm hoping with rice that can get me all the way up to 6 inch water depth.
Yeah. Well,
But,
so I haven't messed with rice hardly at all. Um,
but
not
down south, they kill a ton of birds over it.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna live vicariously through you
Yeah.
with your rice project, and
I'll,
we'll see
I'll
what
live through your sorghum, and you can live through my rice.
we
Uh, okay. Well, what did we miss? Anything?
Man, there are a couple of pictures in there. It just looks like a grassy field.
Yeah.
We did
Like,
some early drawdowns, and we saw tremendous with the weather that we had. Some nice 80-degree days. Lots of days in the mid 70s. We got a lot of wild millet to pop,
yeah.
and so we've got hundreds and hundreds of acres of really strong, moist soil through an early drawdown, which we don't always get.
Is
Um,
that good or bad for it to be sprouting this early?
it is great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. A lot of that seed will disappear and it just sits on the ground until we start putting water on it.
Yeah.
So,
And every time I plant millet too early, I get invaded by blackbirds, and it drives me nuts.
yeah. Well, man, just remember that they knock 70% of that stuff on the ground.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh,
So
that might,
blackbirds are helping out.
that might help my rage. But she's still up, isn't she?
Georgia. Go to bed, honey.
She want to make her first appearance on the podcast?
Come over here. Here. Can you say hi to Mr. John?
How you doing? Did you see that turkey that he shot? Was that cool? Well, do you like to duck hunt? We're talking some serious duck hunting strategy.
You know all about duck hunting strategies, huh? What's your favorite kind of duck?
Mallard.
Mallard.
Pintails too.
You like pintails too?
Oh, I love pintails.
So does Daddy. Go to bed, honey. Say bye to John.
We don't actually get to shoot a bunch of pintails here.
Dada.
They're,
Go talk to Mommy.
I spent the extra money on the. I think I sent you that link as well.
Go talk to Mom.
We'll see how she obeys.
Oh, this is not very good right now. Get out the shot collar.
Well, I actually spent the extra money on that. Did you see the link I sent you about the blackbird-proof sorghum?
Yes. Yeah.
But now I'm like, wow, 70% of it's going to be on the ground.
Yeah. So blackbirds, they won't start hitting the millet until it's literally will shatter when they land on it. And so you'll see them, they'll flog in there, and especially Jap millet will go from blackheads to white.
Yeah.
In the matter of a few days. Well, that's because blackbirds come in there. They didn't eat all that stuff. They're knocking most of it on the ground.
But they eat a lot of it because they come in like packs of millions. It seems like. Okay, what else? Making sure I got through all your pictures here. I did get my canvas back mount back. You can't see it, but I'll put a picture up of it.
Man,
we don't shoot a bunch of canvas backs. We don't shoot a bunch of pintails. So like they're trophies to us here.
Yeah, man. I think I saw one pair of canvasback last year.
It's such a good looking bird.
Oh yeah.
I say me. It was just my buddy that shot it at my farm. I also just dropped off my teal with a GPS tracker last week to get that mounted.
Killed a teal with a GPS tracker?
Yeah, so again, another it's actually a guest at my farm, and I just showed up. I'm like, how'd you guys do? And they're like, we had a blast. We shot whatever. I don't know if they had a limit. They're like, we also shot this. I was like, what? I don't know if he even knew how cool it was. I was like,
yeah.
You shot a GPS tracker on a teal? It's like, I think.
So it's green wing teal?
Yeah, so we called it in. It was early season, and it was a real botchy looking thing. I should have sure I have a picture of it somewhere. And we called the number on it. We weren't even sure it was like DNR. And like, you know how hard it is to get a call back from DNR. He called us in 90 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, it was like, hey, I might screw this up, but it was a pilot program. They banded 10 of them up in like Canada and 10 of them down in like Louisiana. And we were the first people to shoot one. It was crazy. He like knew it. He was tracking them. He's like, oh, you must have shot the one that was in Chicago last night. We're like, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, that's cool. So have you been able to get any data back to see where that bird had stopped or anything?
So he said he wouldn't give us the data.
He made it flight path or anything cool. I mean,
he made it seem like the data was so like routine that if the public had it, they could track them or like kill them more. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But he did try to get the tracker back. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm going to mount it. Can you send me like a replica? He's like, yeah, send it back and I'll send you a replica. And I was just like, well, why don't you send me the replica? And then I'll send you that back. And I haven't heard from him since.
Oh, man.
He said they were $1,200 each, plus like a $20 a month Verizon account because they tracked him along the way with like the weather and everything. And I haven't heard from him since.
It's because the duck hasn't gone anywhere.
Right. Right. But I'll show you that when it's done because that'll be a cool mount. We're missing everything. We're about 40 minutes long. Try not to go too long on these things.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to add was with those moist soil drawdowns, we're getting some pretty good, millet response. And right now I'm looking for problem areas. Like when we go out and scout some of these wetlands that we've already drawn down, and we're starting to see the first little plants come up. Early identification of undesirable species is the key. And so if we start seeing a lot of spike rush or Reed's canary grass or river bulrush or something coming up, it's going to be level 3 on the radar, trying to make sure that we get something done with that before it has a chance to really get a foothold. Whether that's a chemical application for something that's really wet, or getting a disc on it. Rotational disking and for moist soil management is very, very helpful. Probably the single most important tool a wetland manager can have when you manage it for moist soil is a disc. That occasional or say 3-year rotation in soil disturbance can keep you in a pretty good rhythm of maintaining the more desirable plants that we get annually, both Pennsylvania smartweed and wild millet. But
man, there's some clubs on like the Illinois River that do that stuff, but I'd like to, like, after listening to you, I'd like to try that stuff somewhere that is not super common, because here it's corn. It's corn, and if you can't get it in corn, it's millet and buckwheat, and that is like 99% of it. There's one club that does really well that's all natural. Rice Ponds here in Peoria, everyone knows about them, but it's 1,000 acres, and it's a well-managed club. Everyone, I say everyone else, it's maybe not that, but the other clubs that you hear of that do good, they're disking it under, planting corn, keeping water out. That is it.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious to see if some of that stuff would work in areas that are off, the river 5 miles or whatever it is, where we do still kill a bunch of ducks. I don't know how much that would work here or not. It'd be cool to try it.
Well, you think about it, and diversity is king. And so a duck doesn't want a high carbohydrate, hot food.
Yeah, for sure.
And on a 60-degree day in the end of October, beginning of November, even the 40-degree sunshiny days, they don't need that high carb, hot food.
Yep.
And they're going to be focusing more on moist soil plants, earlier in the season. So, I mean, if a duck is in your corn in late October when it's 50 degrees, it's not because he's eating corn. He's,
Right.
likely feeding on some of the weed seed that is there, or they're just because of the structure that it provides.
Structure roost in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have some good wood duck hunts in the corn early. It's just because I think they like the structure. I'm not sure they're eating anything there, but man, they seem to love it there.
Yeah.
And my timber hole with 6 trees. We do really well there. Okay. Sure I'm missing something, but we're still rocking and rolling, planting, spraying, fertilizing. That is one thing that I think separates like professionals that do this and like hobbyists that have their own farm that do it themselves and they're jealous of like how well someone else's stand looks like. We spend a pile of money on fertilizer, a pile, and it makes a huge difference. Like literally we cannot explain to our clients how much. Like we plant our wetlands corn like production corn. We just do.
Yeah.
That's what our clients want to see, and when we go to other areas that a client did it himself and it looks like garbage, and they want us to do it, and typically one of the only reasons is like, well, how much fertilizer to put on? Usually the answer is none. Like usually 0. But so we are right in the middle of fertilizer and working that under right now. But just wanted to say that because for the clients that try to manage their own farm, like you can get away with no fertilizer on some stuff. Like millet, you can get okay. Some buckwheat, corn.
Yeah. Well,
not one.
So are you running anhydrous or are you doing all dry?
If we can get it in, we'll do both. We like to do 2 applications. We'll like put on a liquid later when we spray it. But like now, if we can work it under, we'll hit it with a granular and work that in.
So what are you doing on your wetland corn? I mean, what's your 250/50 or?
No, we're going like depends what soil test we run, but like we're putting on a couple 100 pounds of nitrogen if it needs it, an acre.
Yeah.
And usually it's renting a buggy and it's not that hard work, but like we had to do this month when we had weird rains, it's like we'll have to go out there and broadcast it in. Literally a 50-pound bag. So I'm dumping 4 bags in my little 50-pound seeder for every acre.
Yeah.
But like you said, you got to get ahead of it because if you miss that, we had to work it the next day and plant the next day. So it's like you just do it. But I just say that because a lot of people try to do it themselves. Like if it's corn, just spend a little bit of money and put it on because you can get ears, especially a lot of stuff that we do that's strip mine soil. It's not that like most of the wetlands you'll find are wetlands because they were like, poorly drained areas or poor soils to begin with. So that just kind of like complicates the problem. Like not putting a bunch of fertilizer on strip mine soil. Like we've done it when we run out of time or we don't have any options. It's like your ears are literally like a foot off the ground and they're like 8 inches. And it just doesn't work. So anyways, that's my 10 cents for people who are trying to do it themselves, which is totally cool. Did I get to all your pictures? I think I did.
One of the last ones I sent you, I think last time you were asking me about that rotary ditcher.
Oh, yeah.
I sent you a picture of it too.
Yes, I see it.
I'm hoping it's dry enough we can run that tomorrow afternoon. But
explain that.
So that ditcher will cut like a half moon ditch, and let's say 8 to 15 inches, and we use that in the bottom of the wetlands and the lower areas to try to get those little pools that areas that you're prone to losing corn or losing production because it's too wet. We can
just dry out
a lot. Yeah,
create like a little tiny trench almost.
Yeah, it's something you can still drive across, but
yeah, that's cool. I don't never use that.
Yeah, you don't want to hit it going 9 miles an hour with a scraper on the back or anything, but
Okay. Well, we covered it, man. I'm sure we missed something, but we'll try to catch up again next month.
okay.
So next month will be what? More planting, finishing up that. Hope to be, well, I won't say that. You won't be fully planted by May either, will we? But we'll at least have a plan for the rest of it, hopefully.
Yeah.
And be within, within a few weeks of being done.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, cool. About a month from now, we'll do it again.
Sounds great, man.
All right, man. Well, you guys, thanks for listening or watching or however you're listening to this. And we will be back at it in a month from now, covering May in the series Year-Round Waterfowl.